Hey friends, Allison here. Welcome back to my channel. I'm back today to share with you another layout that is going in my December daily album. This layout is all about my holiday baking and the food that we gorged on over the break. Not all of it was baked, some of it was store-bought as well, but a good portion of it was homemade. So I have a whole bunch of pictures to add to this layout because there was a lot of food that we took in over the holiday. I printed 9 photos at 2 by 3 inches, and I'm adding them to a 6 by 8 inch piece of white cardstock. It's plain white cardstock. I'm following the same idea that I had when I created my Elf on the Shelf layout. If you want to check out that video, it is in my December Daily 2021 playlist. I'll have that linked down in the show notes in the bottom of this video, so you can go check that out if you would like to. But rather than putting my photos on an angle and only covering the top 2/3 of the page, I did the entire page in photos, and they're just in a fairly straight, linear pattern. I did make sure that they were offset so they weren't all at the same height. So there is going to be some portions of photos that I have to trim off. You can see me doing that right now. But I don't do too much else to this page. At the end of the video, I do add some white acrylic hearts from Close to My Heart. I color them all and sprinkle them around that page on just some of the photos. I think there's 4 in total, but you'll see that closer to the end of the video. I'm switching gears and moving on to the next part of my layout, which in the end is like 3 pages. Well, we'll call it 2.5. So the first 2 pages are full 6 by 8 inch pages. I printed my photo. This is a photo. Of course it's a photo, but it's not mounted to cardstock is what I was trying to say. I printed it at 6 by 8 inches. And I am going to be adhering this little banner that I cut with my Cricut and used my Cricut to write Feast Mode, which is essentially my title. At the bottom of it, I decided it needed a little bit of embellishment, so I went back to my Cricut and die cut a little holly, and that was adhered to the bottom. I'm just trying to get this tag centered on the layout. I failed miserably. But that's okay, it's all good. I did add a little bit of stamping at the top of it to try and mimic stitching. I did think about hand stitching the tag to the photo, but in the end, I just pulled out a stamp set and used black StazOn ink to stamp a stitched mark. Here is the half page that is coordinating with the rest of this layout. The facing page that you see right now in the screen as I'm gluing them together is basically just a filler. I used my Cricut to write a phrase, and then I duplicated it twice so it would fit the 3 by 8 inch piece of paper. And then I also die cut a little cake. And on top of that, I'm adhering a little tag that says, "Let's get baked." I wrote "Let's get baked" on pink cardstock and then cut it with my Cricut as well. And I'm adhering that to this page with some foam squares just to lift it up a little bit. And it's going to cover the break in both phrases in the center of the page. I decided to leave the phrase black and white. I did think about coloring it in, but in the end, I really liked the pop of color that the cake and the little phrase provided, so I just left it blank and ran with it. I did decide though, on the flip side of this little insert where all the journaling is, to color in the holly. So rather than die cutting the holly from green and red cardstock, I drew it on this piece of paper, let the Cricut cut it out, and then I decided to color it in. Right now I'm just trying to figure out what green I want to use. I had dull green pulled out, and then I pulled out my citrus green blend, and that was the one that I went with. So coloring that in, I did try to add some shading, but you can't really see it. I can't even really see it looking at it with the naked eye. If I had added more layers, that probably would have deepened the colors, but in the end I didn't really care so much. So I just left it the way that it was. It's colored in and that's good enough for me. I decided to add some red stickles to all the red portions on this layout. So each of the holly berries and then the holly on top of the birthday cake are all going to get red stickles. I did have to wait for the insert to dry before I could flip it over and fill in the holly on the back side of the insert, but it didn't take all that long. I think I left it for maybe an hour and it was perfectly good and dry by then, so I could flip it over and let that dry before I put it into my album. Here is where I mentioned that I pulled in the white acrylic hearts from Close to My Heart. I did toy around with adding just a couple large hearts to the page and leaving it at that. I decided in the end though just to bring a little bit more attention to some of the photos around the page instead of one focal point. And I decided to integrate all the colors that I've been using in my album so far into the hearts. So there is red, pink, green, and blue. They're all little hearts. They're hard to see on the screen right now, but they are there and you'll see them in the close-ups. Well, my friends, that is it for me. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're enjoying my December daily series. I know that December is over and we are into January, but I'm trying hard to get the last week of December completed. So stick with me because there will be more coming after this. If you'd like to see more Cricut projects like these and others, definitely hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you're notified every time I post new videos. And if you enjoyed my video, make sure you leave a comment and a like as well. I'd love to hear from you. Take care, friends, and I'll be back again soon. Bye.